Hello, I'm Mark Staples. I'm your host for Charter Communications program Local Edition, where we interview the legislative and governmental leaders of Montana on the issues of the day. I'm at the 2015 legislative session, which has just started, and I think we're going to have an opening song any minute in the background, so bear with us. My guest is a leader of the Montana Senate, 6 terms in the legislature, 3 in the House, now 2 in the Senate. Senator Llew Jones from Conrad. Llew, thanks for coming by. I know you're a busy man, so we're honored you could take a few seconds. I'm going to jump right into it. You're chairing Senate Finance and Claims, which is, that's everything that's going to spend a dime in this institution has to basically go through you, correct?
Well, Finance and Claims does see the budget last, and,
right.
And we have a constitutional obligation in Montana to produce a balanced budget.
Which is the only real mandate this legislature has. They do 2,000 bills, but the budget's the main item.
It is. In the end, it's the main item. It's required in our Constitution. And so far, we've fairly successfully in Montana been able to produce a balanced budget that, provides folks with the services they need and matches our revenue stream. I would say with the snow I see out the fan window here, some of the services folks might need is a few snow plows in the road right now.
Well, and the mayor of Helena, I see him walking down the hall. You can grab him. Speaking of the budget, the governor submits a budget.
Yep, proposes.
And what do you think?
Well, the governor proposes a budget.
But it's been submitted, and I'm talking about the one that's been submitted. As a starting point, what do you think?
Well, it is the governor's starting point, in particular with some of the revenue challenges we're seeing in oil and gas in eastern Montana. We do have some legitimate concerns, and these are some recent oil and gas drops. It's been quite recently that potentially our revenue stream is not there to support quite that robust a budget.
What about the infrastructure? Eastern Montana's had this explosive boom before the recent oil drop and gas. They were producing tremendous revenues for the state. They believe that they have detriments because of that growth that need to be addressed in terms of infrastructure. They came to the legislature the last time. The legislature passed it. The governor vetoed. He said it would be better to borrow the money because interest rates are so low that it's not smart. Their investments are making 17%. Doesn't make sense to spend cash when you could get low interest rate money. Now I've heard bonding, which is borrowing, versus cash, versus blending. Where are you on the spectrum of that?
Well, I think first off, on the infrastructure argument, I do believe that Montana as a whole, eastern Montana in particular, has got to take a look at keeping its infrastructure out.
Yes.
We absolutely have to recognize that we have to invest in infrastructure. It is the base of business. Again, we're going to take a look at our revenue streams and we're going to try to determine what is the best way to meet this obligation. If we have, after analyzing revenue, some cash, we obviously have a preference to trying to pay a certain amount of cash. The more we pay with cash, the less obligation an expectation we drive forward on future generations. However, we also recognize that businesses out there, in particular with low interest rates, do recognize that sometimes on larger capital projects, such bridges, sewers, that they do have to do some bonding and potentially, if we can keep it in a shorter term enough time frame, lever some borrowed money. And so nothing's off the table right now.
We are the third day,
yeah. We recognize there's an infrastructure need. We hope there's some cash we can put towards it. We recognize that maybe some sort of a blended cash bonding solution may be what's required. Obviously, my preference and a lot of folks' preference is to try to cash stuff out to the extent possible. And if we do bond, to keep bonding to a reasonable time frame so we're not joining the federal government in putting expectations too far ahead onto people.
Last session you passed through both houses and signature of the governor a massive reform bill on education that was very complicated, very thorough, the essence of which was it started to get these very income sources we're talking about from production of oil and gas and other natural products into the revenue stream to support the schools. And so you became somewhat of an expert. This was K through 12. I see that you have some ideas for higher education funding this time. And just in very brief, this is some kind of fund for folks to save money for their children?
Yes, what we would like to do is we don't want to become a system where government takes care of the children. Mm-hmm. But we do recognize that if we can help folks, encourage folks to invest early when their children are born into a seeded savings account, into their 529 college plans, that if we can get folks a habit of investing early, and they too, as you mentioned, there's a time value of money earlier.
Sure.
They can participate in the time value of money, then by the time they go to college or trade school or whatever it is their higher education objective leads them, they could potentially have some dollars set aside that allow them greater opportunity, greater potential for student achievement. And so our thought is that maybe early on, right when the child's born, basically with your birth certificate in hand, that we're going to come up with some scenario that, look, if you'll establish your children's savings account, if you will contribute to it yourself, we'll maybe match you up to $100 or some small amount in order to get this started. To start you, hopefully start parents or help parents get onto a path where they will consistently invest in opportunity for their children.
We've got about 30 seconds, believe it or not, that's how fast this goes, but we got about 30 seconds. You're driving away from here 90 days from today, or 87 days today. You're finished, you're going the 150 miles up the road to Conrad, give or take 10 miles. You're looking in your rearview mirror. What do you hope to have accomplished in this session?
Balanced budget, so that the state of Montana is on a solid fiscal path going forward, a education program that helps students achieve and have the opportunity to achieve more, both K through 12, higher ed, and a fair and reasonable tax policy base.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in all that and everything else you're involved with, which is just far too far-flung to talk about today, but you do good work. You represent your constituents so well, and I thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us, and thank you all for tuning in.